Hello and welcome to episode 129 of the official EstablishTheRun.com podcast. My name is Adam Levitan. I am one of the co-founders here at ETR. As always, I am joined by fellow co-founder Evan Silva, and today we will be going team by team through each NFL franchise, talking about important Week 8 takeaways, waiver wire guys, role changes, look ahead to Week 9. Anything else? Evan, what's going on?
What's up? Had a solid week, at least from a sports betting standpoint. We smashed all the overs.
Mm-hmm.
We got the Dolphins defense, and we're ready to explode into Week 9.
Yes, Evan Walters. And I actually want to mention the Javon Wims thing in a second, because we love Javon Wims, and Javon Wims just went absolutely nuclear on the Saints from a fighting perspective. But anyways, before we get into today's show, though, I did have to mention.
I'm sure that Dana White will find a place for him on the roster.
Yeah, I mean, who punches somebody with a helmet? But anyways, before we get into the show today, want to remind everybody we do have a sponsor for this podcast. Yes, it is Underdog Fantasy, and I think you guys will enjoy what they have going with Battle Royale. It's a combination of DFS and best ball. It's really simple. You draft a 6-player roster in snake draft format just for this week. In other words, it's like a GPP, a DFS GPP, but snake draft just for this week. So there's an interesting strategy component that comes with it. You're not going to go really deep into the player pool in a 6-round draft, but you have to think about stacking. You have to think about finding some off the board plays that have a reasonable chance for a spike week. Much like DFS, you can't just play the optimal and expect to win a large field tournament. You can get in for $5. First place is $4K. After you deposit, be sure to mention that you heard about Underdog Fantasy on ETR. You'll be eligible for some ETR swag that we'll have an announcement about soon. Yes, I hope you guys saw the tweet. We almost are ready for the gear. It's coming. Again, UnderdogFantasy.com. Make sure to enter promo code ETR after you make a deposit. All right, we are going to talk NFC today. Reminder that the AFC version of this podcast will be premium. Let's get to it with Arizona. And yes, they come out of their bye, and it is Chase Edmonds' dance party season. Although there were reports over the last couple of days that Kenyon Drake's injury is not as bad as initially feared. Kenyon Drake may be back sooner rather than later. That said, Chase Edmonds has a really big opportunity, I think, against a funneling Dolphins defense, run funneling Dolphins defense. Anything on Edmonds that we haven't mentioned already, and any other bye week adjustments you could see for the Cardinals as they come out of their bye?
No, I think that we've kind of covered all our bases on Chase Edmonds. People know what they've got. They had a solid, a usable flex option in the first half of the season, and now he's going to get his big time opportunity to be the Cardinals' feature back. And he's outplayed Kenyon Drake all season, certainly in the passing game. So I expect him to be on. No other Cardinals running back got a touch in that pre-Week 8 bye, that Week 7 game against Seattle after Kenyon Drake went out. And I think that in deeper leagues, we could talk about Benjamin and maybe Jonathan Ward but with Kenyon Drake sounding like the injury is not too serious, those guys probably are not going to run into any value. I think it was interesting that in that game before the bye, Andy Isabella played a career high 50% of the snaps. Now, he only saw, I think, 3 targets in that game, but it does seem like they are making more of a commitment to playing him on offense. He's probably going to have a couple spiked weeks in the second half of the year, or I'm hopeful at least.
If you were going to make a bye week adjustment and say, how can we make this offense better, it would be at least sit down Larry Fitz some in favor of Andy Isabella. Just rotate them a little bit. Larry Fitz doesn't have to play every single freaking snap just because he's going to be a Hall of Famer one day soon. Let's go to Atlanta. Last Thursday, Calvin Ridley hurt his ankle, and I thought it was really interesting what Atlanta said after the game. They have designated backups for each of their wide receivers. Christian Blake is Calvin Ridley's backup. Olamide Zaccheaus is Julio Jones' backup, and Brandon Powell is Russell Gage's backup. So now that you have it set up like that, we know, hey, listen, Ridley's going to miss time. It's actually Christian Blake. There's no, is it Blake? Is it Zaccheaus? We know that it's Christian Blake. Any optimism for him as a waiver pickup, and anything else is on Atlanta as they get ready for the Broncos?
I mean, I think you could try it. You could try grabbing him, but, we've got a 3-game sample of Calvin Ridley missing time at the end of last season, and Christian Blake did nothing, and he did play a lot, and Julio just went absolutely nuclear. So that's sort of what I'm excited. Julio in those games, 20, 15, and 13 targets. So I think this is going to be absolutely a Julio week going up against Denver. Also, the Broncos maybe without A.J. Boye, their best corner. He was concussed last week. Hayden Hurst has come on as a pretty consistent option in Atlanta's pass catcher core. And the Falcons in that Thursday night game against Carolina, they really went out of their way to limit Todd Gurley. Brian Hill had a season high in carries. Todd Gurley had his fewest snaps since week 1. I think that they come out of the bye and that was on a short week. They come out of not the bye, but like the mini bye. And Todd Gurley goes back to being like a 70% player. He's getting a lot of usage. He's scoring a lot of touchdowns.
Yeah, I have bets on both Russ and Mahomes to lead the NFL in passing yards. And Matt Ryan just goes out there every week and throws for like 350. Matt Ryan leading the NFL in passing yards right now. So going to need one of those guys to catch Matt Ryan. Let's talk about Carolina. Tentatively expecting Christian McCaffrey back for Sunday's game against the Chiefs. And, I think Mike Davis has maybe worn down a little bit. They're using him so much. The rhetoric from the coaching staff right now is, hey, even when Christian McCaffrey gets back, we're still going to use Mike Davis. I don't know if I buy that. Really, I still think we'll see Christian McCaffrey handle 85% plus of the running back touches. Anything on Carolina as they get set for the Chiefs?
It'll be interesting to see what Christian McCaffrey looks like when he comes back, because we've seen so many players over the past several years dealing with high ankle sprains come back. They don't look the same, or they suffer a compensatory injury, or they aggravate the ankle. Hopefully Christian McCaffrey, we see him back at full tilt.
Yeah. Okay. The Chicago Bears. And yeah, if you guys have played preseason, you're likely familiar with Javon Wims. Javon Wims, I don't know what got into him. He wheeled the guy around and then just started punching him right in the helmet. And he got suspended for a few games, but I don't know. It's just cool to see Javon Wims out there losing his mind, I guess. The thing that I thought stood out was Allen Robinson surprisingly gets cleared for this game. And I thought that took Anthony Miller out of play. And then Anthony Miller ends up with 11 targets somehow. I don't think that's going to be something consistent where we see, because we have Mooney and A-Rob playing outside and Javon Wims only playing in 3 wide receiver sets, which they aren't running very much. But did you see anything that makes you think Anthony Miller can sustain this? Anything else with the Bears in their overtime loss to the Saints?
I think it was specific to the matchup. The Saints have not been great at defending the slot. And Anthony Miller, not only did he see 11 targets and went 8 for 73, but he also played like above 70% of the snaps, which is by far his most on the year. I'm skeptical that that's something that's going to sustain because the Bears like to play they like to use multiple tight ends so much. So I'm kind of in wait and see mode on that. But yeah, Allen Robinson, the latest receiver to have a big game against Marshawn Lattimore. Marshawn Lattimore has been having a brutal first half of the season. David Montgomery, this was his best rushing game of the year. Still needed, one individual 38-yard run where he got caught from behind, and then 21 carries to get to 89 yards. Just not a dynamic player.
Yeah. The Dallas Cowboys, and I thought that they were going to do, absolutely anything to get Andy Dalton cleared from this concussion, because Jerry Jones was tilting his face off, right? And he was saying, the Gucci man, Ben DiNucci, just isn't it. It's not ready. It's too much for him. They must be so tilted now that Andy Dalton has landed on the COVID list and has already been ruled out for 19, which ruled out for week 9, which means that Ben DiNucci, who had a really tough spot for his first start against Philly, has like the impossible spot now against the Steelers. And so I assume that's who they're going to start. I don't know what other option they have. The trade deadline is coming up here in an hour and a half. I just don't know if they could be saved or if they even want Ryan Fitzpatrick, or if the Saints are willing to give up Jameis Winston or something like that. But man, I don't see how we can have any optimism from out of the Cowboys in this spot against the Steelers. And really, they have to play Washington. They have to play the Ravens also in the next month. Like, I'm worried if we have Amari and Gallup on that FFPC team. I have Ezekiel Elliott in that dynasty league. Like, I'm worried that these guys are just total dust now. How should people be handling their Dallas skill players?
Yeah, I just think they're going to be incredibly inconsistent with a lot of bad games in their future. With Ezekiel Elliott, the Cowboys have been rolling back his workloads. using Tony Pollard more. CD Lamb played a season low in snaps against the Eagles. So, and then Amari Cooper did nothing. Gallup was targeted heavily by Ben DiNucci, but I'm not sure that that's necessarily something that you can bank on. It's going to be real rough for the Cowboys skill position players in fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, in season long, like I'm not going to be afraid to sit down guys like Amari, and I'd be a little bit more hesitant to sit down Zeke, but if I had better options, I mean, I don't think that it's the craziest thing in the world, especially against the Steelers defense, which, pretty clearly the best in the NFL. Maybe the Bucs. We'll talk about them in a second. Detroit Lions. Unfortunately, Kenny Golladay, who we love here, Kenny Golladay hurts his hip and is going to already been ruled out for week 9. So the rest of the wide receiver routes on 48 Matthew Stafford dropbacks, Marvin Jones 48, Danny Amendola 36, Marvin Hall 33. Now I want to note that Quintez Cephus was a healthy scratch in this game. I do expect him to be up going forward. When Golladay missed time earlier this year, it was actually Cephus who operated in the Golladay role, didn't really do much with it. What do you think about this time around with Kenny Golladay out?
Oh, man, how long do you think that Josh Hermsmeyer's tweet thread is going to be about Quintez Cephus if he has a good game here? No, I mean, I think that without Kenny Golladay, I mean, you're losing your vertical playmaker. Marvin Hall can run. Marvin Hall runs 4.44. He has made big plays in past opportunities. Quintez Cephus ran 4.73 at the combine. I guess he ran 4.56 at the Wisconsin Pro Day. But I think they got to go with Marvin Hall as like a near full-time player. That's what they did in this past game. He played 70% of the snaps. Of course, Cephus was a healthy scratch, and I'm sure that he'll be up in week 9. But I think that their best three receiver set right now is going to be Marvin Jones, assuming he's not traded, which I don't think that he will be after the Golladay injury. Amendola in the slot, and then Marvin Hall as the other outside receiver. Marvin Jones has come on a little bit lately. He really did very little in those first 2 games that Golladay missed, but he's started to play better lately, and I think he's going to be a good play against Minnesota.
You would think that Adrian Peterson getting 31 carries the last 3 games with a long run of 8 yards would be enough to remove him. We know not to assume anything with Detroit. And so, there's a lot of optimism for DeAndre Swift. I mean, maybe you could argue that he's been over-owned a little bit in DFS as people are waiting for the breakout. It's just with these coaches, they're still playing Kerryon Johnson some, and obviously Adrian Peterson is going to handle this early down work until his wheels completely fall off. His Green Bay situation is ugly, man. I thought Aaron Jones was like a minor calf thing and they were just being safe. Now it looks like Aaron Jones is going to miss his 3rd straight game on Thursday. Meanwhile, A.J. Dillon is on the Corona list, and because he had close contact with Jamal Williams is out Thursday also. So no A.J. Dillon, no Jamal Williams, and probably no Aaron Jones Thursday against the 49ers. Leaves them with Tyler Ervin and Dexter Williams. I'm curious who you think is the better ad here for people. Tyler Ervin has played exclusively wide receiver this year for the Packers. So I like that. I mean, I like my running backs who, hey, we can say he gets out there, he's going to catch 3 or 4 balls, creates a nice floor. Dexter Williams was, I believe, a 6th round pick at Notre Dame in 2019. Has not done much. Aaron Rodgers had a quote today that he's excited to see what Dexter Williams can do. I assume there'll be some kind of timeshare here. Who would you prefer as the ad between Tyler Ervin and Dexter?
It's a tough one. I think that they might just go real pass heavy against San Francisco. I mean, I like Dexter Williams coming out of Notre Dame, but the Packers coaching staff has shown zero trust in him almost whatsoever. He was criticized by the coaching staff quite a bit in his first year for blowing pass blocks and, all these sort of things that rookie running backs often struggle with, but he particularly struggled with. And Tyler Ervin has had some games where he's played, like 33% of the Packers snaps when he's been healthy. I don't know. I think that neither of them is going to be like a reliable season-long play. But for showdown slates, I guess I would probably lean toward Tyler Ervin for his pass catching ability. But I don't know. It's going to be a tough one to parse, I think.
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of Ty Montgomery when Ty Montgomery went from like wide receiver to running back, and then he got a start, and you knew he was going to catch at least 3 or 4 balls, and that was at least had some value. So I feel a little bit better about that, but don't feel great about either. Other thing I want to mention here, again, it's 2:25 p.m. Eastern. There's a lot of smoke around Will Fuller to the Packers right now. Deadline is in an hour and a half. And obviously, I think we want Will Fuller to stay in Houston, where they're going to get into these wild kind of shootout games because their defense is so bad. And Will Fuller's target share projects to be far higher in Houston than it would in Green Bay, where Devontae Adams is obviously soaking up so much. So we're rooting for Fuller to stay on Houston, but we'll see what Green Bay decides to do there. The Los Angeles Rams lose Darrell Henderson to a thigh injury. Not sure how severe it is. He left after 18 snaps. But even after he left, I mean, it wasn't like they were like, well, here we go with Cam Akers. Malcolm Brown got 57 snaps. Cam Akers just 20. Still, I think as we await word on how severe this injury is, we need to at least be adding Cam Akers where he has been dropped. What do you think about that and anything else with the Rams as they went down to Miami and kind of got embarrassed?
No, I think you summed it up pretty well. At the tight end position, Gerald Everett has pretty much overtaken Tyler Higbee as the Rams' primary pass catching tight end. Josh Reynolds continues to see a pretty large role coming off a game now where he saw 9 targets. Cooper Kupp saw 21. He injured his wrist late in the game, and that'll be something I'll be looking for on the Wednesday injury report to see if he shows up.
Yeah, who do you think is the slot replacement for Cooper Kupp if he's not able to play?
I haven't looked into it specifically yet, but it might be Van Jefferson.
That'd be interesting. Drafting community hated Van Jefferson, but it seemed like he was playing pretty well in the preseason, and Rams were at least a little bit excited about him.
Well, route running Twitter really likes Van Jefferson. But yeah, he was like an old rookie. So a lot of, metrics-based guys weren't big fans of Van Jefferson.
Route running Twitter. What a world. Okay. Minnesota. And, it was I don't want to say like a wake-up call, but just a reminder of how good Dalvin Cook is. And like we joke a lot about running backs don't matter. Like we've seen Mike Boone fail. We've seen Alexander Madison fail. I mean, Dalvin Cook just goes out there and shreds. Kirk Cousins only has 14 pass attempts in this game, and they still score 28 points. So, just a good reminder on Dalvin. I thought he was a little expensive in DFS at 7,500 coming off the injury, but man, just went absolutely nuts. And the other thing that I saw, Irv Smith continues to see more routes. Season high in routes run for Irv Smith. I believe it was 83% in that game. So good to see on Irv, even though he only got 1 target. But again, Kirk Cousins only 14 pass attempts, so not a lot to take away there from the pass game. What did you see out of Minnesota's big upset in Lambeau?
Yeah, that's the one thing to kind of understand that, Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson, Irv Smith aren't all suddenly bums because they were unproductive in this game because the Vikings only had 14 pass attempts in the game. So none of the pass catchers are going to produce in scenarios like that. As you mentioned, Irv Smith, his role has really expanded since the beginning of the season. Now has played almost 80% of the snaps in consecutive games. And don't lose faith in Thielen and Jefferson.
Yep. Okay. New Orleans, and I thought it was a pretty good win for New Orleans to go up to Chicago in nasty weather, not have Michael Thomas, not have Emmanuel Sanders, and squeeze out an overtime win. Alvin Kamara is now up to 9.4 targets per game with an 83% catch rate, 12.4 carries per game with 5.0 yards per carry. And he's like 4th in the league in carries inside the 10-yard line. And we've talked about this so much, how the role is just so ridiculous. And I know some people played Kareem Hunt over Alvin Kamara on DraftKings last week, and I think deservedly took an L there. Other than that, we'll see on this Michael Thomas thing. Like everything changes with New Orleans if and when they get Michael Thomas back. It's just hard to say that he keeps getting ruled out on like Friday every week. Anything else you saw with the Saints on Sunday?
No, I mean, Alvin Kamara now on pace to break the all-time running back receptions record. Traquan Smith continues to be pretty mediocre, playing in place of Michael Thomas. Jared Cook continues to be highly consistent, 5 for 51 and a touchdown on 7 targets. Not a ton of huge takeaways.
Yeah. Okay. The Giants, they didn't have Devontae Freeman, so I thought it'd be mostly Gallman with a little Dion Lewis. Turns out they're out here giving Alfred Morris, who quite frankly I didn't even realize was on the Giants until yesterday. They're out here giving Alfred Morris 8 carries in the game. Should also know Golden Tate made a nice play, and maybe that sparks a trade with him. But obviously this Giants team is 1-7 in total mess, although they did show a little bit of fight last night against the Bucs. What did you see out of their Monday night game?
Just a pretty rough showing from Daniel Jones, turning the ball over too much still. Missed had a ton of opportunities to make big plays in the passing game, just continually missed guys high and wide. I think that he has not made a ton of progress here in his second season.
Yeah, it's certainly a tough spot against the Bucs, so we'll get to how good their defense has been playing in a second. But yeah, signs on Daniel Jones are quite bad. I still maintain that Jason Garrett is the man to blame here. Eagles. I thought really good signs from the Eagles on two guys. Dallas Goedert only saw one target, but ran 28 routes on 33 Carson Wentz dropbacks. Jalen Reagor didn't have a huge game, did get a touchdown. Jalen Reagor, 26 routes. Now think about this schedule coming up. They have a bye this week. Then the Eagles get Giants, Browns, Seahawks, Packers, Saints, Cardinals, Cowboys, Washington to close out the year. I mean, they have to have one of the best schedules for offensive skill players the rest of the way. And Dallas Goedert and Jalen Reagor, given all that's gone on with Deshaun Jackson, with Alshon Jeffrey, everything else, they might get Miles Sanders back. Like, this could actually be a reasonable offense in the second half, and one that I'll be looking to buy low on what you see out of the Eagles game as they head into their bye.
Yeah, and I'd also be hopeful that they get back Lane Johnson, who's another guy that keeps getting ruled out on Fridays. But yeah, I mean, I would assume that Miles Sanders will be back after the bye week. Really good sign that Dallas Goedert and Jalen Reagor were able to handle almost full workloads in their first games back.
Yeah, for sure. San Francisco is a mess, man. I mean, they've had so many injuries this year, but now in one game they lose Jimmy G, which, whatever. I don't think the drop off from Jimmy G to Nick Mullins is really that severe, especially with Jimmy G on this ankle issue that he's been battling seemingly all season. And then George Kittle, they lose, though. I mean, that's like the death blow. It's really hard to see them sustaining with Ross Dwelly or Jordan Reed or whatever they want to do at tight end. And then they also lose Tevin Coleman, which is whatever, because we probably think that Jermichael Hasty is probably better anyways, and they should get Raheem Mostert back soon. But man, I mean, this is a real mess now. What do you think about what they're going to do going forward at quarterback and tight end? There's talk in San Francisco that like this is it for Jimmy G. Like they're going to try to give up on him long term.
Yeah, I mean, their injuries are just outrageous. I mean, for a long time, it was the Eagles that were the most injured team in the NFL. I think you could say with almost certainty now that the 49ers have passed them as the most injured team in the NFL. Looks like the backfield is going to be narrowed down on Thursday night to Jermichael Hasty and Jerick McKinnon. Mm-hmm. And the passing game pie is probably going to be dominated by Brandon Ayuk and Kendrick Bourne.
Yeah. I thought Ayuk and Bourne both. I mean, the thing is about the Jimmy G play, and I played Jimmy G in cash, and obviously it was a total disaster. I mean, you saw when Nick Mullins got in there, Nick Mullins went ham. I mean, Nick Mullins was shredding Seattle's defense, so I don't feel too bad about it. Just Jimmy G is just, man, so bad. Speaking of Seattle, I did a whole thing on the solo pod about how tilted I was at Jay Glazer that he comes out with this at 12:54, because I definitely would have played DJ Dallas if I had that report at like 12:30 or something like that. DJ Dallas ends up out snapping Travis Homer 56-7. DJ Dallas ends up scoring 2 touchdowns. We don't know on the status of Chris Carson going forward, on the status of any of their other backs, Carlos Hyde, but DJ Dallas showed that he can play and handle himself well, and an easy win for Seattle. And then, of course, maybe there's some zigzag theory going on. I think it's more random, but did you see anything that made you think, hey, that makes sense why DK Metcalf went off here and Tyler Lockett was more quiet?
I mean, it's just been, a little bit of a flip-flop each week. Now they're playing Buffalo. Buffalo's been a slot funnel. It could easily go back to, swing back. The pendulum swings back to Tyler Lockett. In the backfield, DJ Dallas played almost 80% of the Seahawks snaps. That the most that Chris Carson has played in any game this year is 63%. So if we get another situation, it sounds like Carlos Hyde has already been all but ruled out. And then if Chris Carson doesn't play, I mean, DJ Dallas is going to be, a good bet for 20+ touches against the Bills.
Yeah, I would note that Travis Homer didn't practice at all last week because he was banged up too, and so maybe they limited him a little bit because of that. But I thought DJ Dallas played well enough to definitely take the lead back role going forward. And yeah, I mean, one of the best games of the week, Seattle, Buffalo on Sunday. Do expect Tre'Davious White to be on DK Metcalf. Evan can talk more about that in matchups, though, when it's time. The Tampa Bay Bucks, and I mean, it had to be encouraging for Leonard Fournette. The fumble that Ronald Jones lost, it was tough play. Like, he was down on his knees, then he got up, then he got hit, and he lost the ball. but it seemed like he kind of got punished after that. I mean, Leonard Fournette 51 snaps to 17. Leonard Fournette 15 to 7 in carries over Rojo. Leonard Fournette 6 to 4 in targets. Leonard Fournette 29 to 9 in routes. So not great for Ronald Jones, but going forward anyways, I think we've both said that we would prefer Fournette as the nickel back, as the pass catching back in this Bucs Brady offense, which throws so much to the running back position. So that kind of is what it is. Wide receivers, I mean, it could be a total overhaul. We could get Chris Godwin back for Sunday night against the Saints, and we're likely to see Antonio Brown's debut. Antonio Brown is like living at Tom Brady's house. Tom Brady has some like weird obsession with Antonio Brown. He's like living in his home now. I mean, this dude's like a borderline psychopath, and now you're inviting the dude into your home to live with you and your family. I mean, good for Tom Brady and all that, but this is a new narrative. It's not the shower narrative. It's like the everybody hates you, I'll take you into my house and live with my family and my kids narrative. This is like a Daigle Silva situation. So from that point of view, I'm actually optimistic about target share. It's going to be really hard to project, but I'd be pretty optimistic about Antonio Brown's week 1 target share, especially considering how poorly Mike Evans has been able to produce this year. I know he did get a touchdown against the Giants last night, but yeah, what do you think about Antonio Brown, Leonard Fournette, and anything else with Tampa?
Yeah, I think that Antonio Brown is going to be usable right away in fantasy. I think that Brady's going to want him out there. Bruce Arians today was non-committal. He's like, Antonio Brown could play anywhere from 10 snaps to 35 snaps. I think it'll be on the high end of that spectrum. And I mean, Tom Brady wants to win a Super Bowl. So that's why he wants Antonio Brown on his team. Yeah, with Ronald Jones, I don't think he played again in the first half after that second drive lost fumble, which the Giants were able to turn into a touchdown. And then he came in for the second half, but Leonard Fournette outplayed him. And I think that Leonard Fournette is the back to own in Tampa Bay going forward.
Washington football team was on a bye. Do have a really good schedule coming up. Giants, Lions, Bengals, Cowboys. And I'm actually kind of optimistic this team wants to play fast. I think Scott Turner is creative. And I think Kyle Allen, as much as I think they should have stuck with Dwayne Haskins and seen what they had more with him, Kyle Allen gives all these guys a better shot. So I'm reasonably optimistic on McLaurin and on Logan Thomas and even on Antonio Gibson. Hopefully, the narrative would go as you come out of the bye, you give your rookie running back more and you sit down J.D. McKissic some. So I think there's optimism given the schedule, given the talent that they have and the condensed talent. It's condensed to McLaurin and LT3 very solidly. So anything on Washington as they come out of their bye against the Giants?
No, yeah, just looking forward to seeing how how Washington treats Antonio Gibson, kind of coming off that pre-bye breakout game on the ground, but had 0 catches. J.D. McKissic outsnapped him in each of Washington's 2 pre-bye games. Can they get Antonio Gibson more involved in the passing game in addition to the progress that he has made as a runner? That'll be one of the big storylines for Week 9.
All right. That is going to do it for the NFC Team by Team podcast. AFC version is for subscribers only. You can find that on your premium feed. If you're not a subscriber to the site yet, we are running a sale with so much of the season in the books. And also we have more free stuff for you on YouTube if you'd like to check that out as well on our YouTube channel. So for Evan, for producer Luke, I am Adam. Good luck, everybody.